MCQ number 21. Which environmental conditions must always be present for seed germination? So, guys, you should know that for seed germination, three conditions are necessary. If one of these conditions is absent, germination will not take place. So, what are the three conditions which are necessary for seed germination? These are water, oxygen, and suitable temperature. Do remember this point that light is not required for seed germination. However, if light is present, the seed germination will speed up. So, what will be the answer? Which environmental conditions must always be present? Must always be present for seed germination. These are water and oxygen. The answer is D. Let's move on to MCQ number 22. The diagram shows part of the excretory system. What is the structure X? So, guys, X is the tube which carries the urine from the kidneys to the bladder. That is the ureter. So X is the ureter, a tube which carries urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder. Let's move on to MCQ number 23. The diagram shows a reflex arc. Which structure is the sensory neuron? So guys, reflex arc is simply a pathway along which the electrical impulses travel to bring about reflex action, which is a fast, involuntary response to a stimulus. So you need to know that a person is touching a hot pan, and this is the receptor which detects that the pan is hot, or this could be a pain receptor or could be a temperature receptor which sends electrical impulses along the sensory neuron, right? So receptor transmits the electrical impulse to the sensory neuron, and the sensory neuron takes the electrical impulses to the spinal cord. This reflex is the reflex of the hand that is below head. So this reflex will be dealt by the spinal cord. So the electrical impulse will go to the spinal cord. So the structure A is the sensory neuron, right? And you need to know one more thing, that sensory neuron has its cell body in the dorsal root ganglion. This is another point by which you can recognize the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron is a neuron which has a cell body in the dorsal root ganglion. MCQ number 24. The diagram shows the structure of the eye. Which structure refracts light? So, guys, light is refracted by the cornea. This structure is the cornea, which refracts or bends light. Refraction is the bending of light, and most refraction is carried out by the cornea. Refraction is also carried out by the aqueous humor, which is a fluid in front of the lens, and refraction is also carried out by vitreous humor, which is the fluid behind the lens. This is the lens, right? So these are the structures: cornea, aqueous humor, vitreous humor. They carry out refraction. Guys, lens also carry out refraction. So only cornea is labeled over here. That is A. B is the iris. Iris does not refract light. D is retina. Retina does not refract light. And C is the optic nerve. It does not refract light. Alright, let's move on to MCQ number 25. Which disease can be caused by lack of vitamin C? So, guys, always remember this point, that there is C in scurvy, right? So, scurvy, vitamin C. So, scurvy is caused by vitamin C. So, vitamin C deficiency results in scurvy, which involves bleeding gums, right? So, the symptoms of scurvy include gum bleeding. MCQ number 26. What is formed when the nucleus of a sperm fuses with the nucleus of an egg? So, guys, zygote is formed when the sperm fuses with the egg. MCQ number 27. The diagram shows part of a flower. Where does fertilization occur? So, you should know that, guys, in flower, the fertilization occurs at the ovule. So the answer is D. These are the ovules inside the ovary, and these are the sites of the fusion of male and female gamete, that is fertilization. MCQ number 28. The diagram shows the female reproductive system. Where does the implantation occur? So, guys, implantation is basically a process by which the zygote attaches to the endometrium of the uterus. So, zygote implants in the endometrium of the uterus. So, C is the site where the zygote implants. MCQ number 29. The diagram shows a timeline of a woman's menstrual cycle, which lasts for 28 days. On which days of the menstrual cycle is a woman most likely to ovulate? So, guys, the woman ovulates at the mid of the menstrual cycle. This is a 28-day menstrual cycle. So, the woman should ovulate around day 14. Ovulation is the release of ovum by the rupture of Graafian follicle. So, the answer would be C. Days 13 to 16 are the days where the woman is most likely to ovulate. Let's move on to MCQ number 30. The human immunodeficiency virus HIV can be transmitted in body fluids. Some examples of body fluids are listed. Which body fluids can transmit HIV? So, guys, blood can transmit HIV, semen can transmit HIV, saliva does not transmit HIV, tear fluid does not transmit HIV. The answer is C. You need to know that HIV is present in body fluids, and the fluids that mainly transmit HIV are blood and semen. HIV can also be transmitted in breast milk, which is not here in the options. MCQ number 31. The information shows what happens during some of the stages of sexual reproduction in a human. Which sex chromosomes are present in the egg, the sperm, and the fertilized egg shown? So, guys, if we see, the egg is fertilizing with the sperm, or the sperm is fertilizing the egg. The fertilized egg or zygote is formed, which develops into a male embryo. And they're talking about sex chromosomes. And in humans, they're talking about humans. So, as you all know, that male contains XY chromosomes, right? Male contains XY chromosomes. So, fertilized egg should contain XY chromosomes, right? And you need to know that egg always gives the X chromosomes, because egg is made in the female and female is always XX. So, egg always contains X chromosome, whereas sperm is made in males, which are XY, and sperm can contain either X or Y. But because the embryo is male, so the sperm will contain Y chromosome. The answer is B, right? The fertilized egg or the embryo is male, right? Which contains XY chromosomes. So the egg will provide the X chromosome and the sperm will provide the Y chromosome. Let's move on to MCQ number 32. The genetic diagram shows a monohybrid cross. Guys, monohybrid cross is a cross which deals with a single gene or a single characteristic. H is the dominant allele and small h is the recessive allele. Which of the parents and offspring are heterozygous? So, guys, we need to state that which parents and offspring are heterozygous. So, we know we can see the gametes of the parent 1. As shown by the gametes, parent 1 is capital H, small h, that is parent 1 is heterozygous. If we talk about parent 2 is homozygous, small h, right? If we talk about 3, so 3 is formed by the fusion of capital H gamete and small h gamete, right? So 3 will be heterozygous, right? What about 4? 4 will also be heterozygous because the offspring 4 is made by the fusion of capital H and small h gametes, right? So this will be capital H, small h as well. If we talk about 5, 5 will be small h, and 6 will be small h. So the parent, which is heterozygous, is 1, and the offspring 3 and 4 are heterozygous. So the answer is A. Let's move on to MCQ number 33. The graph shows the distribution of a characteristic in a population. So, guys, they're talking about a characteristic in a population, and the graph suggests that this characteristic belongs to continuous variation, because continuous variation includes range of values between two extremes. So, these are the two extremes. This is the lower extreme, right? And this one is the upper extreme. So, whenever you see Range of values between two extremes. This is continuous variation, right? Which characteristic is shown by the curve? ABC blood group in humans? No, guys, this could not be the answer because ABO blood group system in humans is an example of discontinuous variation. Body length in humans? This is the answer because body length is an example of continuous variation. Seed color in peas is an example of discontinuous variation, and seed shape in peas is also an example of discontinuous variation. Let's move on to MCQ number 34. Dates are a type of fruit. The table shows some features of the dates a farmer grows. The farmer would like to produce a new variety of date using selective breeding. Guys, selective breeding is basically artificial selection. Artificial selection, right? He wants a medium-sized date that is straw-colored and soft with a high yield. Which two varieties could the farmer breed together to get the variety he wants? So guys, you need to know that the date should be straw-colored. So the farmer needs to breed any of the two varieties, and the variety he wants need to be straw-colored. So for that, he must choose Thuri variety. So the answer should contain Thuri. It means A and C are not the answers, right? Secondly, he wants medium sized variety, and the variety should be soft and has a high yield. So obviously over here only Barhi is the variety that has high yield. So the answer is B. Makhtoom has a medium yield and Thuri also has a medium yield, so they cannot produce high yield. They cannot produce varieties in the high yield, right? So the answer is B. Let's move on to MCQ number 35. The diagram shows a woodland food web. Which statement is correct? The rabbit and the frog are both herbivores. So guys, rabbit is the herbivore because it is feeding on the grass, but the frog is not a herbivore because it is feeding on a snail, it's a carnivore, right? So this is wrong. The fox and hawk are both secondary consumers. Guys, fox is the secondary consumer over here because grass is the producer, rabbit is the primary consumer, fox is the secondary consumer, but hawk over here is not the secondary consumer. Hawk is the tertiary consumer because snail is the primary consumer, dandelion plant is the producer. Snail is the primary consumer, frog is the secondary consumer, and hawk is the tertiary consumer, right? So this is wrong. Moreover, the frog is a tertiary consumer. Guys, frog is the secondary consumer. Dandelion plant is the producer, snail is the primary consumer, and frog is the secondary consumer, not tertiary consumer. The rabbit and snail are both primary consumers. This is true. Grass is the producer, so rabbit is the primary consumer, and dandelion plant is the producer, so snail is the primary consumer. The answer is D. Let's move on to MCQ number 36. The table shows processes in the carbon cycle that release carbon dioxide into the air or remove carbon dioxide from the air. So, guys, in the table, there are processes which release carbon dioxide into the air and processes that remove carbon dioxide from the air, which we need to state that which row is correct. So, processes that release carbon dioxide into the air are decay, combustion, and respiration. You need to know that photosynthesis is a process which absorbs carbon dioxide, which takes carbon dioxide away from the air. Whereas if you talk about decay or decomposition, in decay or decomposition, the decomposers are feeding on the dead matter and they are carrying out respiration. So carbon dioxide is being released in the environment. In combustion, we burn fossil fuels and this yields carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is released into the air. In respiration, carbon dioxide is being produced. So photosynthesis is wrong and C could not be the answer. Removes carbon dioxide from the air. So guys, as I just mentioned earlier, that photosynthesis is a process which removes carbon dioxide from the air. So answer is A. Respiration does not remove carbon dioxide from the air. It releases carbon dioxide into the air. Combustion releases carbon dioxide into the air, and decay releases carbon dioxide into the air. Right? Only photosynthesis removes carbon dioxide from the air. The answer is A. 37. The graph shows a population growth curve for a species of insect which has been introduced to an island. After how long, or how long after the introduction, how long after the introduction does the insect population start to be limited by resources such as food? So, guys, over here, the concept is that when the insect population is limited by the food, or we can say when insect populations start to be limited by the resources, so what will happen is that the insect population will become constant. Always remember this point that when the insect population is rising, it means a lot of food is available. But when the insect population becomes constant or it falls, it means that there is low availability of food and the food becomes limiting. So they're asking that how long after the introduction does the insect population start to be limited by resources such as the food? So the insect population was introduced at time zero, and um, what happens is that the insect population becomes constant after 200 days. So the answer will be D, that after 200 days of introduction, the insect species, the insect population becomes limited by the resources such as food. Let's move on to MCQ number 38. What is the negative impact of large scale monocultures? So, guys, large scale monocultures are basically crops of a single type, right? So, you have a very large field and you put the crop of one type. That is called large scale monoculture. So, we need to state the negative impact of the large scale monoculture. Crops needs crops need harvesting at the same time. Guys, this is not a negative impact, this is a positive impact. Because if you put one type of crop, so it will be harvested, it will all be harvested at one time. So you don't need harvesting at different times. This saves cost and time, right? So this is a positive impact, not a negative impact. Monoculture produce different types of food. This is wrong. It produces only one type of food, right? That would be the negative impact. Negative impact is that monocultures produce only one type of food. So if the option was that monocultures produce one type of food, that would be correct. Monocultures produce more food. This is true. However, this is a positive impact, right? This is true, but this is a positive impact. Monocultures produce more food because you put only one type of crop, and you will get more amount of one type of food, right? The genetic variation of organisms is reduced. This is true because if you this is the negative impact, right? Because if you put a single type of crop, right? So what happens is that the genetic variation is reduced, and that is a negative impact. The answer is D. MCQ number 39. What could help to prevent a species from becoming endangered? So the answer is captive breeding program. As you all know, that the captive breeding program involves captivating the animals and putting them in cages and allowing them to breed. So when the animals breed in cages, what happens? Offspring are produced, and then offspring are grown. They are taken care of. There's healthcare maintenance, right? And they're provided food. When the numbers of the animals increase, then these animals are reintroduced into the wild. So captive breeding program is a very good way to prevent species from becoming endangered. For example, if tigers are endangered, right? Or we can say that they are if they are about to get extinct, what we can do is that we can start captive breeding programs of tigers. We can capture some tigers, put them in cages, allow them to breed, give them food, um, take care of them, right? And when their numbers increase, we can return, or we can release the tigers into the wild. This would maintain the population of tigers in the wild, and this will prevent the tigers from becoming endangered. Because the term endangered means that the population of a particular species reduces significantly. You need to know that deforestation causes the species to become endangered and extinct. Introduction of other species will increase competition, right? And this will cause the destruction of species and reduction in the population of species, so the species are more likely to become endangered. Pollution can damage plants and also aquatic animals if it's water pollution. So pollution is more likely to cause the species to become endangered. Let's move on to MCQ number 40. What is an example of genetic modification? Inserting genes into the bacteria. So, guys, in genetic modification, what we do, we take genes from one cell and we introduce that gene into another cell, right? Inserting insulin into the bacteria is not an example of genetic modification because insulin is a protein, not the gene. Spraying plants with herbicides is not an example of genetic modification. Using biological washing powders is not an example of genetic modification. So, guys, we are done with the paper. Thank you so much for watching. Allah Hafiz, everyone.